Live, and I am going to double check to see if the audio is working. It looks like it is. So let's simplify accountability. What is it? It's at its core, it's doing the things that you said you were going to do. And there's a lot of alignment with a word like integrity. If we do, if our actions are aligned with our beliefs and our words, we create integrity, and that reduces the risk of failure, reduces the risk of an infrastructure starting to crack. So accountability is I say that I'm going to do something and then I go and do it. Or someone says they're going to do something and then they go and do it. Or somebody asks you to do something and you take that task on and then you do it. You're holding yourself accountable to the commitments that you make, accountability. And I think we overcomplicate accountability. We talk about different ways to hold people accountable. We talk about the importance of accountability. We then get ourselves into the trap of not holding ourselves accountable to self, holding our teams accountable to the work that they've committed to as a team, and then holding our teams of teams accountable, which ultimately impacts organizations. So it kind of crosses all three. Similar to leadership. Leadership of self, leadership of others, leadership of teams, leadership of teams. Well, there's accountability to self, there's accountability to others, there's accountability across teams, and then there's accountability across an entire organization. So let's make this super simply. Let's come up with a super simple way to hold ourselves accountable. The most common way is, at least one of the most common ways that I'm familiar with, is creating a checklist. Now, the big challenge with a checklist is a checklist could go on and on and on, and now all of a sudden you have this long list of to-do items, and you've got to figure out which one of those are you going to prioritize, and if your priorities might not be aligned with others, so you may pass on the impression that you lack accountability. But the reality is it's a prioritization thing, not an accountability thing. Now, you could have found yourself into a situation where you take on too much, but let's talk about accountability in the context of achieving a specific goal. And one of the simplest ones or easiest ones that I like to work through are things like personal fitness, because we have complete control over that as individuals. As human beings, we have complete control over a couple of the things that we do. We have control of what we put in our mouth, we have control of the way that we move, and we have the control of the way that we recover. So if my objective is to improve personal fitness, one approach that I can look at is fuel. So nutrition. Now, maybe my fuel goal, objective, the thing that I'm going to do, my fuel strategy, is focused on time-restricted feeding. So I might do 16-8 intermittent fast. And I may do that on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I can create a checkbox for each of these dates. And for those of you who've been following me for a while, you know that I actually set up my week to start on Saturday. So I'm doing this more for typical week setup. So fuel 16-8. The other one might be what I want to do is in that same period of time, I may want to restrict the total number of calories that I'm taking in. So I've got a calorie target. And maybe I only do that on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So Friday ends up being more of a cheat day. And I can figure out my line items for each of these checkboxes on my own. I don't have to use somebody else's. The key is coming up with some kind of tracking mechanism that you can use to hold yourself accountable to what you said you're going to do, what you planned out, and then be able to reflect and say, did I actually do it? So fuel. Now let's talk about recovery. So sleep. Now, if my goal, and right now I've shared this, I get plus or minus about 6 hours and 15 minutes of sleep per night on average. My goal is to get to 7.5 hours, but in the short term, what I'm focused on is, do I get at least 6 hours and 30 minutes of sleep? So sleep. And that's going to be 6 hours and 30 minutes of sleep every day at a minimum. And a lot of times I'll catch up over the weekend, but do I get my 6.5 hours of sleep every day? And then the third one might be movement. Okay. So I'm going to do movement, and I'm going to do, for me, I do Easy Strength, which is a Dan John program. And the way that works out, that's 5 lifting days per week. Those lifting days for me are Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then my other one is that I walk at least 10,000 steps per day. And that's a daily goal. Super exciting looking at the back of my head as I write up on the whiteboard. But now I've got a checkbox that's really simple. I have individual days, targets for each of those days. And as I go through this, I can document, I can keep track of whether or not I did the work that I said I was going to do. So this becomes an accountability partner, so to speak, for me in the form of a checklist. And I've got this up on the whiteboard in the gym, and every once in a while I'll share pictures, including in the comments, I'll share some pictures of the one that I'm working on right now. But let's say Monday, I hit my intermittent fasting target. I hit my calorie target. I got my 6.5, and actually yesterday I did not get my 6.5 hours of sleep. Went to bed a little bit late on Sunday evening. I did do my Easy Strength workout, and I did hit my walk. I can look back at this and I could say, all right, I went 4 for 5 on my targets for the day. So, okay, good. I'm winning. I'm ahead of the midpoint. I went 4 for 5. Over the course of the week, I can go through and I can keep track of this, ones and zeros. Did I do what I said I was going to do? Yes or no? That's it. No judgment on whether or not I did it. Did I do what I said I was going to do? Then if at any point my numbers fall below 80% of my target, then I have to ask the question, why? Like, what's happened? Am I prioritizing something a little bit more? So a way to simplify your approach to accountability when it comes to things like nutrition and fitness, and really any other goal that you're looking to accomplish, is to create a checklist and have that checklist be in a place where you're reminded of it periodically. My recommendation is to make it as simple as possible. There's no reason to have 10 items on your checklist if you can get by with 3. There's no reason to have 10 items on your checklist if you're struggling to do 3. Start with 1 and move things forward. So one way to simplify your approach to accountability is to use things like a checklist. Now, what I also like to do is I like to break down goals into 3 distinct areas. So goals for the business, how we make money, goals for family, the relationships, people that are close to us, and goals for self, personal objectives that I've got. This would be one that would be related to strategy and tactics. My strategy, fuel, recover, move. Tactics, each of those individual movements over the course of a day throughout the entire week. I can do the same thing when looking at this relative to business as an example. And let's go ahead and talk about a specific area of the business that we're working on building out, which is the that facilitated conversation piece. So if I want to bring on 10 clients, leading them through a facilitator guided conversation focused on some of the catalyst tools that I'll use inside organizations that I'm working with and use inside our business to help improve execution. What I'm going to do is I need to have an outreach target, and the outreach target should be both with new people, people I know, existing, and within the existing, the people that I know, I might be looking at people who are current customers, and I might look at people who could potentially refer me to others. So let's say that my outreach goal is 3 across each of these. So I want to reach out to 3 new, 3 in the customer base, and 3 referral people who are not current customers but could potentially refer me. Well, my goal throughout the week might be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4 days of the week, where I'm doing outreach. And do I hit on those 3 specific targets? This is not getting into the detail around who I reached out to. This is more getting into the specific area of focus of, did I actually do the work? Did I reach out to 9 people per day, Monday through Thursday, and get in front of potentially 36 different contacts if I actually deliver on that? And again, I just go in, I fill in my check boxes if I've done that, and now I've got a way to hold myself accountable to that specific objective. You can use this for anything. That's the beauty of checklists. The most common challenge, again, that I see over and over again when it comes to checklists is that we put too many things on the checklist and we start to be managed by the checklist rather than looking at it and saying, hey, is the work that I'm doing actually working? If you'd like to go deep into this and accomplish more in the next 90 days than you have been able to in the last 90 or even 365 days, check out the daily planner that we have for the game plan. And I'll share an image of it inside the review as well. It helps you to organize around 3 specific goals, then build out strategies associated with achieving those 3 specific goals, and then build out tactics associated with those, and then a simple checklist for each day. Remember, less is more in this process. So let's simplify our approach to holding ourselves accountable to doing work with a checklist. Let's help our team simplify their approach to holding themselves accountable to doing the work, again, with a checklist. And let's fire work if the work is not working, meaning if we're hitting all of those check marks, but we're not making any progress to the goal, let's make sure that we're firing it. Less is more in this process.